What a week in the world of sport this week. So much happened. Like, where do I start? From Bartomeu getting arrested from Barcelona. Tiger Woods having a freak accident. Lots more happening that we will talk about later. I'm here with Liam. Hi, Liam.
Yeah,
So, Liam, I suppose it would be as good a place as any to start off with the arrest of the former, as he is known, former president of FC Barcelona, Josep Maria Bartomeu. I mean, it's so we all know the deep-rooted problems that lie in Barcelona at the moment and the amount of debt that they're in. But this is just it's scandalous. Like, the amount of corruption going on in Barcelona. Like, where do you start? Like,
I mean, not even just in Barcelona. I think Barcelona is a good example of it, but there's a lot, there's a lot of corruption in football, and I really feel like Bartomeu getting arrested is shining light on like 10% of that corruption. Because I mean, I think a lot of people, ever since that Spanish newspaper published Messi's wages a couple of months ago, I think that's when everyone had their assumptions of Bartomeu before that, but that was when people kind of had bang on proof, and I don't think anyone was surprised when the arrests happened yesterday. I'm sure people like Lionel Messi will be quite happy. Actually, he's obviously expressed his disliking of him, and for fair reason. In from Messi's view, really, for a club legend to see the president kind of forcing out players like Suarez, I mean Rakitic as well, etc.
was that not more Coleman, do you not think? I mean, look, I can understand what you're saying, and I know the amount of debt they were in. They needed to get money together, and I understand that Bartomeu who could have played a big part in that.
Well, I mean, just before, but you have to look at the prices they sold the players for. If they were in debt, they need to get money back. They sold Suarez on a free transfer and Ivan Rakitic for what I believe was under $1 million. I mean, for a club that's in debt, paying a superstar player's wages of something along the lines of, I think it was 100 million a year, and you're getting a 200. I think it was 200 grand back in return. I mean, it's shocking business by the board, and by Bartomeu himself. I mean, there's other not great transfers that he was involved with as well. I mean, the Pjanic and Arthur swap deal, that wasn't great for Barcelona, in my opinion. I felt Arthur was a better player, really, and like there.
Yeah,
I mean,
I completely understand what you're saying, and I mean, I sort of looked sort of deeper into it today, and I've been sort of keeping tabs on the whole situation since the news came to light. But what I have here is police arrest the former president of FC Barcelona, Josep Maria Bartomeu. Officers also searched the soccer players' club offices and have detained another three figures alleged to be involved in a scheme to smear players and rivals on social media, known as Barcagate. I don't know if you heard of that name before, but it's the whole sort of brand that they have on this. The former president of the Barcelona soccer club, Josep Maria Bartomeu, was arrested on Monday as a part of the ongoing investigation into a scandal known as Barcagate, involving the alleged smearing of players and opponents of the entrepreneur on social media. The Catalan regional police force, the Mossos d'Esquadra, also detained three people close to him during Monday's operation: Oscar Grau, the chief executive officer of the club; Roman Gomez Ponti, the head of its legal services; and Jaume Masferrer, the presidential consultant. The police are also searching the offices at Barcelona's Camp Nou stadium in accordance with an order from the court that is investigating the former club's chief for improper management. And lastly, the operation comes at a key time for the future of the club, which next Sunday will be holding elections for its presidency. Since Bartomeu left the role in October, an administrator has been in charge of its management. Barcagate dates back to February 2020, when the Cadena SCR radio network discovered that the soccer club had hired an external company, I think it's I3 Ventures, ostensibly to improve the public image of its then president, Josep Maria Bartomeu. So obviously that's in simple terms, they hired this sort of outside company to basically help boost Barcelona's image on social media. I3 Ventures was associated with a series of accounts on social networks that were distributing messages smearing the club's players as well as opponents of the team's directors and people within its orbit. The invoices that were paid to the company were split up into similar amounts allegedly to avoid them being controlled by the club's administration. So basically what that means is that a lot of these, if there's any sort of payments being made of over 200 grand in Barcelona FC, they have to be put into paperwork and shown to the administration. But none of this was out. It was all very under the table, and like it's just so, like, you see it all the time, and I don't know, like, what's your take on this? Because I'm just so flabbergasted. But like, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with getting in people to, boost your image like online. That, almost every club on the planet is doing that. But it's just so scandalous, like what has been going on in Barcelona, given their current situation.
I mean, it's just kind of a shame, really, to see where the club is these days. I mean, exactly 10 years ago, they had just won the Champions League under, I believe it was Pep Guardiola at the time. Messi was currently, entering his breakout seasons that really kind of cemented the title best player in the world. And I mean, you fast forward 10 years, I mean, we all know football can be corrupt, but like, who would have thought we'd be here? I mean, it's honestly shocking what that man Bartomeu was done to the club. And I mean, the others involved, etc. I don't quite remember the names. You have the names, so if you need to read them out again. But like, just the state of the club at the moment is shocking. I mean, even Messi himself has expressed his disinterest in the club and his disliking of it with the way it is at the moment. And I mean, now that you're hearing all this, could you blame him? I mean, his club since I think 2005 or 6. I mean, he's looking at it and he's looking around and he's saying, "What is becoming?" I mean, it's a financial mess, and he might feel a tiny bit of guilt as well because, I mean, at the end of the day, as much as he is recognised as probably maybe alongside Cristiano, the best footballer in the world, I'm sure definitely in recent weeks he's probably looking at his own wages too.
But isn't this is sort of the same debate that I was making about Tom Brady, and I've seen this in various corners of social media, how Tom Brady during the course of his career gave upwards of 60 to 100 million to sort of build up the New England Patriots team around him. Obviously it's a different situation there because if he didn't have good enough players, then he would have got his head bashed in. But like, I mean, Messi, like, looking around the team, I think De Jong is a good player and I rate him very highly. But Arturo Vidal, like, if this is 2012, 2013, Vidal is in his prime. He's, a great, exciting player.
It's
I just
not even
don't.
just Vidal. Like, you've got, sorry for cutting in, but like, it's not even just Vidal is the problem. You look around, you've got Busquets, Lenglet, Piqué. I mean, it's the same story with all of these players at the same time. I mean, what do you get out of any of these players anymore? That because they're well past their prime. The whole of Barcelona is just, I think, over half the team. The team is past their 30s, and they've got a washed up Middlesbrough striker as their number 9. I mean, how did someone like Luis Suarez feel when he saw his his number 9 jersey getting passed out to Martin, however you pronounce his name,
Braithwaite.
What?
It's Braithwaite, yeah, Braithwaite. Yeah,
Yeah,
I understand what you're saying, but like, the whole point of this, like, Luis Suarez has gone into a team now that's full of energy with players like João Felix around him that
I
can
don't know if
they
I'd
can
say
do all
full
the
of
work
energy.
for him.
I don't know if I'd say full of energy. I almost fell asleep watching that Chelsea Atletico game the other night.
I know,
I think
but like, they can basically, what I meant was they can do his running for him. And Messi, since he's not really willing or able to put in as much effort as he has been in the past few years. He needs, players to be able to run around him. Like Suarez is the top scorer. Is he the top scorer in the La Liga? He's definitely up
Yeah.
there this
No, he
season.
was up until last week. Messi's overtaken him with 18 goals this season.
Yeah, that's exactly like that's what I mean, and thank you for that. Like Suarez is able to Suarez is able to get himself into these positions now because other people can do the running for him because like there isn't going to be much tracking back into that team. But I mean, look, it speaks yards of Messi that he can keep up a record like that, even in the midst of all this going on at his club, and it's just so it is shameful, and it does it really makes you wonder. Like this has been going on since February of last year. Like how much money has been going down the drain since then. Like it's so it really is just scandalous. But yeah, can I have your last take on that or anything you'd like to add before we move on, because it is such a topical issue at the moment.
I mean, to me now it's a question of how long it's actually going to take the club to recover from that because the figure that Barcelona are in debt in is, I think it's around, it's greater than €1 billion, and I mean, how long is it going to take for the club to come back from that? A billion? I mean, even the best football players in their team, Messi, you know, he's a free agent in the summer. His contract is probably not worth more than 50 million at the moment. I mean, in a time like COVID as well, no fans. If Messi leaves, not half as much shirt sales or anything. How is the club going to recover from that anytime soon? They're not. That's the point. And I mean, they're they're in trouble, really big trouble. I mean, unless players start taking big wage cuts, if Messi leaves, etc. I mean, if Messi leaves, yeah, there's a big wage. I guess there's a big wage bill gone, but media attention to Barcelona plummets. I mean, Messi fans will walk instantly away from Barcelona and follow him to whatever club he goes to next, and I guess their poster boy will be gone completely. So I mean, I really don't see Barcelona as a club recovering from where they are money wise for at least another 5 years because a 1 billion debt in a time of COVID as well. They've really just dug their own hole here. Then and it's going to take them a long time to get out, and it is saddening because even up like 2015, for example. The year Barcelona, they won the treble that year. MSN, Messi, Suarez, Neymar. One of the greatest attacking trios in the 21st century that we've seen. They were amazing to watch. But what happened since then? I don't know. I mean, you can really blame it on Bartomeu, but not even just that. I guess it was just, I think a lot of things really, and I guess, for example, the undecisiveness of who stays as manager. I mean, I read reports that Koeman's job is kind of being carefully considered now by Barcelona board managers. They're not the most satisfied with him. Setien, Valverde, I mean, all these managers have come and gone. They've won and failed at certain things. And I mean, you kind of have to wonder, where does Barcelona's bad luck streak end? I mean, because, there's no manager in world football right now that looks at a club with club board members, past and present, having just been arrested for fraud and corruption, a €1 billion debt, and your club's poster boy wanting to leave from unhappiness with the club. I mean, it's a mess, really. It's a complete mess.
Over the weekend, we saw Tiger Woods. We were a bit late to the scene on this, but he crashed his car over a sort of a ledge and had to be rescued by firefighters. It's just I remember seeing this and I think, oh god, it's happening again. And I'm not sure if you saw the documentary two-part series on Sky they made about him. But it is
Nah,
absolutely it is absolutely brilliant and worth a watch. But
no, it's been recommended to me by a couple of people actually.
yeah,
I
no, it
think it,
is it is very good. And if you listening would are were thinking about it, it's not on. We watched it just before I left Now TV, but that's besides the point. And there was so much incidences of him getting sort of, like he'd be intoxicated, getting into the car and just so much stuff. But I don't think that was the situation, and I don't think I don't think that was the case at all. But what I have here, and just a few words on it. Tiger Woods' golfing future has been the topic of much speculation this week after the American suffered significant injuries following a car crash in
yeah,
Los
it looked
Angeles.
horrible. It looked horrible, honestly.
The 45-year-old was involved in a single vehicle accident on Tuesday and had to be extricated from the wreck by firefighters and paramedics. The 15-time major champion remains in hospital in California, but is awake and responsive after surgery. According to a statement posted on his Twitter account, he suffered comminuted open fractures to the upper and lower sections of his right leg, along with significant trauma to his ankle. Woods now faces a lengthy absence from golf at the very least, says The Guardian, while the BBC reports that the future of his playing career is in doubt. Speaking ahead of the WGC Workday Championship at the concession in Florida, Rory McIlroy insisted that Woods surviving the crash outweighs the importance of returning to competitive golf in the future. It's just so, it's amazing, just the scale of this. And I don't think a lot of people really understand that he is actually very fortunate to be alive. And I did pick up this article on The Guardian just because I wanted to get Rory McIlroy's opinion on the whole thing. And here it is. He's a human being and has already been through so much, the Northern Irishman said. At this stage, I think everyone should be grateful that he is here, that he is alive, and that his kids haven't lost their dad. That's the most important thing. Golf is so far from the equation right now. It is not even on the map at this point. He has been in a very bad accident, and we are lucky that he is still here. I feel like we should pay tribute to him every day for being on the PGA Tour and what he has done for golf. Now, bear in mind, Tiger Woods is 45, and to break the record of majors won, he has to win 19. And he seems so persistent in doing that, but it just seems like such an unlikely target, given that so much has happened to him with his back surgery and
Yeah, the
and
one in
everything.
2009.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like, I know from the documentary, he tore his ACL, and he's still played through a major. He's done so much, but I just wanted to discuss that because we never really got a chance last week, and I know we are a bit late to the scene, but I felt we should discuss it. Premier League wise, I will just do a quick recap of that. Man City are 15 points ahead, but Manchester United have a game in hand on them. They've
The
but I
swipe
mean,
race is really over though.
well,
It
is
is.
it? Is that what you
I
think?
mean, yeah, I'm confident to be honest. I say that because I feel like it's kind of a repeat of the 2017 to 2018 season, where United finished second under Mourinho, and Pep Guardiola's Man City once again finishing top spot. That season they finished 19 points clear. This season it's looking like it's going to be 12 or 15 points clear, and I really think a lot of that comes down to, I think, lack of motivation from the squad that Manchester United have. And I'm kind of saying something similar to what Gary Neville said. They got to the position that they were in, they got to first place, and they acted as if they didn't know how or why they were there. The only two or three players that really looked like or felt like they wanted to be there in my opinion anyway, were Bruno Fernandes and Paul Pogba. In my opinion, I feel like Paul Pogba, especially when, for example, the Burnley and Fulham games, he looked really confident about that top spot, and that's because Paul Pogba's been at the club for a couple of years. I think 5 now. I mean, he's hungry for titles. He's a World Cup winner. He's a Serie A winner. He's gotten to Champions League finals before, which he unfortunately didn't win. And he was guiding the team pretty well before his unfortunate injury. And I mean, as soon as he got injured, I mean, the results really stopped going our way. Pogba is, well, not to be biased to Man United, but I think Pogba is I think he's more of a talisman to that team than Bruno Fernandes is, in my honest opinion. And I think that comes down to Premier League and international experience when compared to Bruno Fernandes.
I do think I can see why you would think that. I would nearly argue, like, Bruno's statistics are unrivaled, and Pogba's are, less glamorous. But I do think at the root of it, Pogba might be a bit more of a talented player. I might be wrong, because a lot of what Bruno does is off the ball, with regards to his attitude and sort of geeing players up, and that's, I think, why he's been such an influence on this team. Like, he hasn't lost a game away from home since he came. Like,
yeah, don't get me wrong at all. I mean, Bruno has been, the best signing for Manchester United since. I think him and, like I said, him and Paul have been the 2 best signings for Man United since Alex Ferguson left. I just feel like it really just.
I can't agree with you there. I don't think Paul Pogba, like, and he was like 96 million, wasn't he? I don't, like, you can't put him up. I will say, honestly, Bruno Fernandes was the best signing since Eric
Oh
Cantona.
yeah,
But Paul
I said
Pogba
that.
wasn't. I don't think.
No, I think he was, because of what he brings to the team from his experience from different leagues, etc. I know you could say the same about people like Cavani, who came for free, but I mean, Pogba, the man wants to be a winner. I mean, he's won a World Cup, and I mean, he's won trophies with United. He's won I believe he won the FA Cup. I know that he won the League Cup. I know he won the Europa League, Community Shield. I mean, the only trophy left that he could win in England is the Premier League. I mean, so he's the same as Bruno with the mentality that they have. I think, as much as Pogba is a controversial figure from his agent, Raiola, I still think that he has that winner's mentality. I feel like the reason that he wanted to move originally was because Man United weren't really a winning team at the time, but with the turnaround the team has taken, I think he's starting to think, if we just had 1 or 2 more of those extra players, we just had that bit more confidence, we could win a Premier League title. And I mean, at heart, he probably does want that quite badly. I mean, he came through the Manchester United academy, and from what I remember, I think he got a debut for Manchester United under Ferguson. Not a massive one, but he did get one. So, I would think that he'd be out to win the Premier League. It's the only trophy that he needs left in England, and I think if he can win a Premier League with Man United, then he'd probably be satisfied in leaving. Because I mean, he came to England, played for his academy club for a couple of years, won everything domestically that he could with them, and now it's time to move on. And I think that would be quite a fair assessment if Pogba and the rest of the team were to go on and win a league, say, next year, because there's been reports that he's interested in signing a new contract with United. And I think that solely comes down to, I think he's trying to chase a Premier League trophy before he goes anywhere, because I think if he can win a Premier League trophy, I think then he would be fully comfortable leaving.
More problems for Burnley as they struggle to a 4-0 loss against Spurs. Gareth Bale cleaning up with 2 goals and absolutely setting alight that Tottenham team, but too average for Roy Keane. I'm just gonna play the clip now. It was one of the most heated arguments I've seen, and watching it live was just such a treat. But have a listen to this if you haven't seen it already.
That's not what I'm saying, Roy. Which Jamie, which out of these lads would get in?
Which
out of this Tottenham team would get in Liverpool, Man City team, Chelsea team? You wouldn't touch any of them. Son and
front
Kane.
Three, you wouldn't touch them.
Who?
Son and Kane. What?
Yeah, I take them too. Yeah, I said them too. Like outstanding, but the rest of them, you wouldn't touch them.
See, I think the bigger picture.
You play Alderweireld's a better centre back. He'd get in Man United's team as a centre back right now. I think he would. Yeah. I think the goalkeeper's not good enough. I'll agree with you there. I don't think he does well enough. I think the two right backs they've signed. No, I don't trust Aurier and I don't trust Doherty. He hasn't done well enough, but he plays in a back three. I think the back four isn't good enough. But I tell you what, Reguilon is as good a left back as there is in the country. So I think you've got that one wrong. I think he's a class player.
That's why Real Madrid let him go.
Not got any
That's
confidence.
Why do you think Real Madrid let him go?
So you're saying he's not? Does that matter? Oh, because Real Madrid let him go, that doesn't make him a good player.
Yeah, but how much did they let him go for? How much did they let him go for? It's not as if they paid 60, 70 million.
They might be able to buy him back, actually.
So you're saying,
they bring Doherty in.
He's a fantastic left back.
Doherty's playing for Wolves, who were the last year have done well and they're expecting to compete. They sell him to Spurs for 15 million. Doherty. Does anyone really think Doherty's going to make Spurs a top 4 team?
No,
Doherty, really?
Yeah, I agree with you. What about the left back then? So you're saying Reguilon's not a good player now? Is that what you're saying?
No, he's a good player.
You can't see a lot of Spurs.
He is a good player. No, he's a good player.
Just take a breath, Jamie.
Very good.
Jimmy, what's your take on Spurs, where they are?
So, yeah, I hope the quality was good enough on that, but just to hear take a breath, Jamie, at the end, it's not really it's sort of, admitting that, Keane has maybe won this one and that Jamie has lost it a bit. I was in stitches watching it though. I couldn't believe what was happening for such a dull weekend of football. It was in a sense, it was very dull, but I was absolutely in stitches watching it. Like I couldn't believe what was actually happening. Like,
to be honest, I don't really agree fully with Roy Keane, but I definitely don't agree fully with Jamie Redknapp. I think both of them kind of had a bit of biasy towards their own opinions there. I think some of them made fair assessments, some of them didn't. I think it's just it's just Sky Sports punditry. It's football, I mean, everyone has different opinions, and I think that was just a clash,
After a 4-0 win, though, like that's the thing. Like, I mean, I think I am willing to agree with Roy Keane after that. Like, no Cork bias there, but I think in a sense he is. Like, the two centre backs are not good enough. I don't think Aurier is good enough. I think Doherty was better at Wolves. He's struggling for confidence under Mourinho. I think Reguilon is good. Højbjerg, really, I mean, Ndombele. I think Ndombele is good. He's just maybe fitness is the thing. Without Son and Kane, they are an average team. Like, without Son and Kane, they are an average team.
Yeah, big time. I mean, if you look at Tottenham's last, 4 before the game yesterday, I think it was 3 or 4 defeats in 5 games with 1 win, and that's pretty alarming. I mean, for some of that, Harry Kane was missing, and it shows. I mean, with him missing, what happens to that team is it's kind of all over the place, really, isn't it? I mean, there was all this talk at the start of the season about them being a title contending team. They won the top of the Premier League for 2 weeks trophy, to be fair to them. But, there's glimpses of quality in that team. Gareth Bale, Harry Kane, Son. I mean, they got Ndombele, who's on the rise. I mean, on paper, Doherty is a good player. Sorry, on paper, you think that he's much better than he actually does perform. I mean, Reguilon, like I said, on paper, he's better than he probably should be. But at the same time, I do think he's been good for Tottenham this season. I think he's young. He's used to La Liga. But, it's different with Doherty. I mean, he'd been playing in the Premier League for 2 or 3 years before this with Wolves. I mean, there's no excuse for why he shouldn't be performing. Because Wolves, when he played there, it's not as if Wolves were a relegation threatened side. I mean, he finished in a Wolves team that got Europa League. That's exactly what Tottenham finished in last season. There's no reason why he shouldn't be performing, but he's not. And I mean, some people would claim it's down to system, but at the same time, if he starts in a back four and he's a right back, there's no excuse to why he shouldn't be performing,
He
but
was
he
always
doesn't.
a sort of a right wing back, wasn't he? Like, I mean, a lot of the time last year, Wolves did play a sort of a five at the back, and I mean, like what Jamie Redknapp is saying there, that he's playing right of a back three. Like, that's a centre back essentially. Like, I mean, that's like somewhere where maybe Aspilicueta might play, and I mean, like, Aspilicueta is just essentially a right back robbed of pace, like. And I mean, I just think Doherty. I do think Doherty offers more going forward than Aurier, but I just think they're both like Doherty on form. But I mean, look, Aurier is just a sausage, really, isn't he? Like, I
Yeah,
don't
he's lazy.
I
I mean,
don't.
did you remember people like Danny Rose even existed for the club?
He was like, I think I rated Danny Rose very highly. Especially when he was younger. I know he had a sort of a failed loan at Newcastle, but I mean, I always respected him for the fact that he'd always come out and be honest to the press. I've
Uh,
watched several interviews of him, and he's got fine, but he's keep doing that. But yeah, and I know Davies as well. But the whole point of them getting
I
Reguilon and Doherty in was to solve those problems.
and I think they made a bit of a mistake letting Kyle Walker-Peters go to Southampton. In my opinion, I think he's a pretty bright young player. I had him in my fantasy team up until he got injured, actually, and he performed, which I'm happy about still. But I think he was actually really good for Southampton this season, and I do think Spurs made a bit of a mistake letting him go, in my opinion, because I mean, he's better, competition in the back, like in the left and right back spaces compared to Serge Aurier and etc. I do think he would have been better for that. So I think it's disappointing they let him go on. I mean, Reguilon is, he's got a buyback clause from Real Madrid. If he suddenly turns into a Premier League superstar, all Real Madrid have to do is go, yeah, okay, we want him back now. It's essentially a loan, but it's not at the same time. It's a loan with no set. It's a loan with no set time limit. Is basically what
With
the
no
buyback.
guarantee of him returning. Liam, thank you so much for talking with me tonight. I know it is getting late. Thank you at home for listening to the Sideline Podcast. Thanks, Liam.
Good luck, bye.